get there. But you can. So let's be on this side.
Oh, sweet.
Don't hurt yourself. You need to return. And this is the gate or the door of no return. We can see how narrow, tiny, smaller, little the size of the door is. One question that many people do ask is this: why this size of the door?
Exactly.
Why too narrow? Why too tiny? Why too little? Three main reasons accounted for this. One was to control the Africans. Two, for easy counting, so they could easily be counted to know the numbers that they were moving them from the dungeons through this door. And the third reason was to dehumanize our ancestors. But narrowing the door into their size did not suggest that those who were captured were not strong. They were. But based on the condition that they were subjected to when they were captured, as they walked on foot for several days, weeks, and months, crossing rivers, climbing mountains, hills, with little food being given to sustain them. On their way, they were losing weight. In the dungeons, they were losing weight. By the time the ship arrived, due to the weight loss, each captive could just fit through this door. At that time, the sea or the ocean was up here, was touching the structure. Due to the shallowness of the sea, the ship docked some few meters away. They used wooden boats or canoes to transport them into the ship. They packed them in the holdings below deck as if they were not human beings. Then the journey across the ocean began. Unfortunately, they never knew where they were going. They never knew how long the passage would take. The conditions on the board ship, they had no knowledge about it. There was no point that their situation became better. Things always worsened from one point to the other. As you saw from Cape Coast Dungeon, as we experienced at the Slave River, and as we are doing here, if all the walls and the rivers that you've come across have mouth to speak, they would have spoken better than me. Why? They saw the tears, the pains, the cries, but their voices were never heard. This reminds me of an old African proverb which says this: until the lion learns how to write its own story, the hunt will always glorify the hunter. Again, until the lion learns how to write its own story, the hunt will always glorify the hunter. In other words, until the lions have their own historian, the hunter will always be a hero. Today, when you go to Florida, when you go to Wisconsin, what do you see? Laws are being passed that African history or black history needs not to be taught in schools. And I keep on asking myself, why should this be happening as a 21st century? That we thought you've come a long way. We thought you've come so far. It teaches us one lesson, and that is this: if all these structures are not preserved till today, many people would have disputed that something of this nature never happened. Even if it happened, it's a myth. But now that we have all the evidence surrounding us on the west coast of Africa and in the plantations in the Caribbean islands or in the Americas, what people can do is to make sure that the original history is removed from books, so younger generation may not have the privilege to learn about it. They will try, but I will tell you on authority that they will never succeed. Why? W. Du Bois once said, now is the acceptable time. It is not tomorrow. It is not any coming season that our best work can be done. This is the time for the true narrative to be told. This is the time for the true narrative to be shared. I know the sugar-coated history is also out there, but the time has come for the true narrative of the pains, of the suffering that our ancestors went through to be told. If I want to talk, the talk will never end. Why? Whatever our ancestors went through goes beyond just the experience that we're having. As proud descendants, they've gotten that privilege to come back home, to make such a dream a reality, but coming back home and see where they began their journey from. And this is something that we all should be proud of. They could never. This means that anything positive on the African soil, they try to steal it, they try to take them away, but they could never succeed. And this today has made you a proud African for you to come back home to see the pains that they went through. And this should always make us happy as one people. At this point, those of us, we can all return, which is a symbol of victory.